Okay, so we're going to quickly make a table view. Just going to create a new project, and we'll have our standard storyboard. What we're going to do is add in a table view controller. The reason why we're using a table view controller is that a lot of the coding's already done for you, and you don't have to worry about most of the extra bits. We'll add a button to segue between our two, and we just control drag that to segue across. Oops, click the button, control drag, show. Now, as always, we'll have to create a .swift file. We go new, oops, file, Cocoa Touch class. This time, you might have had the view controller selected. You need to change that to a UI table view controller. I'm just going to call it my table view controller, and click next. Ensure the language is Swift, of course. And there we have it. Now, with any .swift files, when we're connecting them to a view controller, we need to assign them. So click on the table view controller, attributes, and then select the one that you've just titled, so my view controller. Now it's linked and we can progress. What we're going to do here is click on the cell and then back through to the attributes inspector, and you've got this little heading here saying identifier, and we're going to call it cell with a capital S, and that allows us to refer to that in the coding. There we go. Okay, so now we go to the My View controller. Now this is what I meant by a lot of the coding's already done. You've got your traditional viewDidLoad function, but you've also got these other sections. Here we've got our number of sections in the table view. At the moment it's returning 0, which means there are no sections. We want it to return 1, so it's all one section, but of course you can split it into several sections, but we'll stick with 1. And then you can select the number of rows you want to submit. We'll go with 6 to start with. If I run that there, we'll see how it works. So here we go to our button, and we get a crash, and I'll explain why that crash occurs in just a second. But I just wanted to show you what happened when you just ran it straight off. We need to put a few more bits into our code, and I'll explain what those bits are right now. So one of the reasons why it didn't compile is because we made this cell identified as cell, but we didn't refer to it at all. I might just change the style so we can see a title in there, which we'll edit a bit later on as well. But you can choose different styles depending on what you want, but we'll just stick with the basic one to begin with. When we go back here, as I said, a lot of the code's already coded. We're going to uncomment this method here, the table view one. This actually refers to the cell, and it uses this reuse identifier, which we named cell, so we're going to delete that and type in the name that we chose, which was cell with a capital C. Now we can actually configure that cell to a particular title or element of an array. Let's just run that and see how it goes. Okay, so here we've got our button. We click across, and now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is what we set, rows with just title in them. Now obviously having title in them is of no benefit, so we're going to go back and we're going to put some code in which will actually give it something useful. So now we've created this element called cell. We're going to set that. So we're going to go cell dot text label. We need to put a question mark in after that. Dot text, and we're going to set that equal to, let's say, hello. And we'll see how that changes the code. So here we are. Click the button, and now we get the text that we selected, hello, 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 hello. Again, having one word repeated isn't very useful, So we're going to use an array to put in a whole string or list of different names. To do that, we'll set an array up just in here. We'll go let names equal. Remember to do an array, it needs the square brackets. Let's call it Bob, Bill, Sarah. Oops, need to be in quotation marks. Heather, again quotation marks would help. Neil. Close that. So now we've got this array called names, and we want it to scroll through those names to get and put each name in a different row. So instead of saying the cell text is equal to hello, we're going to call our array names, put the index path, which is calling what row you're up to, index path dot row, which will give it the number of the row it's up to, and that will of course cycle through our array and should give us the various names. Okay, so let's see if we get our names. We get an error. Now the error being that it actually goes outside the number of names in the array, because I've got 6 rows and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements in my array. So I need to drop that back. Okay, so let's see if we get our names. There we are. Bob, Bill, Sarah, Heather, Neil. And we can scroll them like a normal table view. Now obviously you'd probably want a more complicated array, and we'll go through that on another video. But you can see how you can quickly add in a whole list of elements to your array. Anything else you want to do with that, you need to put your coding in this section here. That is called whenever that row, particular row, is hit. So if you want to do anything with that row, this is the place you put it. We'll go through a couple of other features on other videos, but that's the basics of setting up a table view.